Hello, Assalamu alaikum and good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Classics Show. I am your host, Shabnum Riaz. Well, today we have a fascinating episode lined up for you, and we're going to talk about the book called Interpersonal Communication, Relating to Others. And this is a fascinating subject, and you're going to see as the program goes on that how many layers and how many different dimensions there are in this communication. We're very happy to have with us today in the studios our guest, Mr. Asif Rasool, who is a lecturer for management sciences and a corporate trainer. Thank you very much, Mr. Asif,
Thank you
for joining us here today. Okay, so now we're going to talk about this book. This book is actually a textbook that is taught throughout the world, and it is something that is talking about interpersonal communication. Tell us something about the author as well.
Dr. Stephen Beebe is the author of this book, and he has been in this communication business, or he's serving in this specific area for almost 30 years. And he has just written 12 books, and he has got more than 70 articles published, and he has been into different world conferences as well, and he has also established a Russian communication forum as well. Okay. And he has got a lot of researches on this and that.
Right, okay. So, let's talk about the book as well. Interpersonal communication. It seems that it's been divided into two segments. What are those?
Basically, when we just talk about interpersonal communication skill, we have to discuss two broader categories as well. Number one is communication in general and human communication. So when we just talk about first category, we don't say that we are going to limit it to only human beings, but we have got all other species as well. In that specific regard, we have got a body of research, and it said that they just came across 126 different published definition of communication, and still different theorists do not agree on one unanimous definition of communication. So in human communication, when they just see it, they say that human communication is basically making sense around the world and sharing that sense with others, and that is called communication. Now, how do we do it? It's through Lotus. For example, first of all, I listen to people, and this really enhances my understanding of the world. Second, I'm just going to observe around, and through my observation, this is another source of getting the knowledge. And third is that I just touch it perhaps, and I came to know that this is hard, this is another form. And then like taste, and last but not the least, that is a smell. We smell something. So these are like 5 kind of senses in which we are just going to make sense all around the world. And after that, we share it with the people. And after this, we discuss this interpersonal communication. This is a distinctive form of communication. How it is distinctive? Well, because we use this form of communication to develop, maintain, and wherever necessary, to end our relationships.
Okay, that is very, very interesting. We're going to come to this point that you're talking about, the ending of relationships, because you would think that, we would use these communications and these skills more to enhance a relationship and make it work better.
But yes, this is a very intriguing question. The thing is that what this book suggests, especially it's for the people who are in the corporate business. Sometime you're just going to leave your job, sometime you're going to switch to different organization. So you're just going to end your relationship in such a way that even if you're going to come back, so it's not going to be that much harmful, or we are not going to have like lots of problem there, which are really going to create issues for us.
It's sort of like keeping your doors open.
Open, exactly.
That would be the thing behind it. Okay, so that's very, very interesting. Now, what about the intrapersonal? Because we've got the the communication with ourselves, and the interpersonal, the communication with others. I thought the intrapersonal was very fascinating. Are we doing that on a subconscious level? How do we harness these skills?
It's like getting awareness about yourself, intrapersonal, because all the time, one way or the other way, we are communicating with us. For example, when both of us, we left our homes, even we were silent inside the car, but still there was a communication going on. And even after we leave this room, once again, same is going to happen. So Martin Buber, he came up with this idea of this, he gives us on this communication continuum, that there is like two concepts. One is we are in I-it relationship. Now I-it relationship, it stands for non-object. Fine. It means in this I-it relationship, we are not actually communicating with genuine human beings. Rather, we are communicating with the roles. For example, if we go to the restaurant, if we go to the bank, or if we go to any shopping plaza, and then we have got a very temporary kind of communication with them. So basically, this communication, actually, it's not with that human being. We are communicating with that role, actually. That is I-it relationship. Then on the same continuum, he said that we have got like I-thou relationship. Where where we are going to take the other person as genuine, authentic human being, and who is fully present when we are just interacting with that person. So this is what we call the other side of this I-thou relationship.
Right. So that's sort of a, you're moving between phases of an objective and a personal, personalized relationship. Okay. So I have a question for you. Can a person put an objective relationship on a personalized situation? Can that happen?
For example, when we just start, for example, we come across so many people around us. So initially, it's a kind of I-it relationship. We are just communicating with the role. But once we just get familiar with all these aspects of interpersonal communication skills, and we can just take the model of I-thou relationship, and we can apply the same model there in I-it relationship as well, and we can have this wonderful interaction with the other person in this regard.
With the other person, okay. So what are the main things that a person needs to, brush up on in these skills, in having that sort of relationship, the I-thou one?
Exactly, that's a very good question. We have got 4 elements. These are like most important aspects of intercommunication skill, and these are, I would say, these are 4 qualities. Number 1 is warmth. Because we have got like different types of people. For example, we got warm people, we have got cold and frigid people. So, I mean, if we go to any meeting, if we go to any place and where we have got a lot many people, so people who are very much open to us, okay, they have got like open body language, we really feel like going to them, and we feel like asking questions, not that a very short conversation. If we're just going to compare it with the rigid and frigid people who are like very cold, actually I am not saying that, well, they're bad, they are not aware of this. Most of the time they're not aware of this. So number 1 is warmth.
Okay.
This is really, so that's why once again I have to appreciate Bushra Ansari as well. Because of that warmth and all that, we can see this kind of aura of her personality in different shows, and still he's like very much lively and all. So this is like, 1 is warmth. Second very important element is empathy.
Empathy.
Putting yourself in someone else's position. Now, if I just make it a bit complex, it's like entering into someone's perceptual world. Now, this is a very, very difficult thing. Now, people won't let you to enter into their perception world very quickly. But if you are like, I call it like Larry King style. He has been interviewing people for the last 40 years, and he's an extraordinary interviewer. So they have got like, they really know how to open up
Get
with the
another
people.
person to lower their sort of guard.
Exactly.
Isn't
So
it?
the second is empathy, and this really helps us a lot. For example, inside the classes, in my business classes, when I teach this concept to my students, I always tell them that, look, sometimes you've got certain grudges against your parents, and you always feel that, well, you're right, but actually, if you're just going to grow up, and after, let's say, 20, 25 years, you're just going to put yourself just in your father's place, and then you will exactly understand it, that, look, what he was doing. So
was
our job
because of this reason.
Exactly. So we need to put ourselves into other person's shoes, and this is how it really helps us to enhance our understanding our interpersonal relationship as well. Third aspect is unconditional positive regard. Now, this is a very different aspect of communication where I would say...
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Unconditional positive regard.
Unconditional positive regard. Okay.
Exactly. Now, normally in our relationship, we always condition our relationship.
Oh, yes.
I'll respect you as long as you respect me.
Oh, that's so true.
I'll take care of you as long as you take care of me.
Oh, that's very true.
I'll appreciate you as long as you appreciate me. But the day you're going to stop it,
End of relationship.
I'm done with that.
Okay, that's
So there, I would say that this is not a simple thing. This is kind of refinement of your personality. When we get to this specific point, this is a continuous process.
Right.
And then we got like these lessons from every religion, every faith, where we have got to take care of people and we have got to regard irrespective of our own like barriers and all that. So this is like third very important aspect where we have got to. And fourth and last one, be genuine. Initially, when we are going to meet people, we are not perhaps going to share almost every aspect of a personality. Rather, we are just going to put a kind of fakery on that. But with the passage of time, it's like what we call onion. Just like onion scenario, it has got like different layers. So initially, perhaps in the first meeting, we're just going to peel our first layer. And then we just, when we really feel comfortable, we'll discuss it in self-disclosure. So with the passage, in this specific scenario, it's purely scientific, I would say, though it's emotions and feelings are involved, but it's a kind of like a scientific complete process.
Right.
So these are basically 4 qualities which are prerequisite to communicate interpersonally very effectively or successfully.
It's really, really fascinating. You know, the things that you have mentioned. Okay, I would say that judging on, you know, meeting many people and in daily life, the people we come across, the things that you have mentioned, unfortunately, are not very common. And these are those qualities, like, you know, you said genuine. You often come into the company of people who, you know, you're able to understand that they're not actually coming off for exactly who they are. Being genuine actually gives a message of such confidence of a person that irrespective of what you're going to think of them, that is who they are, and they're giving you a message of, you know, what you see is what you get. And I'm not going to change myself and put on an outer sort of facade for you, because this is the real me. So I would think that that is a really, really attractive characteristic.
You must have gone through, like, I have read a story of a Lieutenant Colonel. The name got slipped from my mind, but that's a very fascinating story. It covers, encompasses rather every aspect what you have just shared. Lieutenant Colonel sits with his sons and daughters, and after that he starts off with this wonderful story of a villager who is a very simple, straightforward, and then he comes across so many examples, so many occasions where he just shows that foolishness and all that. Since kids were having like very nice environment, very refined environment, and they were just laughing at it, and they were saying, for God's sake, I mean, we can't afford it and all that. But he just kept telling the story, and at the end of the day, he just came up with something wonderful, and that was that, look, I am that villager. And after that, what happened to those kids? You can't even imagine. So exactly like genuineness, it has got such a wonderful aspect.
And exactly, I would absolutely agree with that. Okay, now, the first one you spoke about was warmth. Now, we see that, you know, a person who is warm, who has an open sort of a personality, who's welcoming, who's okay with people coming into a certain extent into their personal space, the aura that you mentioned. But okay, then aren't people who are warm and welcoming, aren't they more also at a risk of coming into exploitation from others? How do they achieve that balance?
Yes, exactly. I mean, whatever your profession is. So if you have got this kind of personality, so people are really going to feel very much comfortable.
Yeah.
They will approach to you. And in this way, I mean, you have got to cater the needs of a lot many people. So this is quite a challenging phenomena. And once you are into it, so obviously one has to be very careful and vigilant and all that. So without creating any kind of issues and problem, one should carry on that kind of summit communication. I agree with that.
Okay. If we talk about the left brain and the right brain characteristics as well, the left brain, sort of, one brain has dominance over the other. And in one of them, it's, you are a person who puts yourself first. You are a person who does not really like to compromise or sacrifice for others and has a vision of what you want. And the other brain dominance is that, you're the warm person, and it's describing many of the characteristics that you have mentioned. So, empathy. Do we see a sort of a distressing reduction or decrease in empathy if we speak in a general term? And how can we work on, especially our children as well, if we're not just talking about corporate management as well, how do we work on developing this?
Yes, this is a very important phenomena, I would say, because right from young age, we have got to develop this kind of emphatic feeling among our kids, so that when they've got to start up with their own personal as well as professional life, it's really going to help them to develop this kind of understanding, and which is really going to help them communicate successfully, and it's really going to help people even lower their guards, those who are going to communicate with these kids. So, I mean, we first of all, it's parents' job right now, I would say, instead of just saying that, well, it's schools or colleges or universities' responsibility. Yes, they do have their part. But I think parents, they need to understand this phenomena, and they have got to develop such kind of activities inside. I would call them activities if we take in a professional term.
Absolutely. Because children will learn through example and through practical implementation,
Exactly.
rather than you can sit down and talk to them for hours and hours. It's, if you act contradictory to what you've just said, they're just going to pick up on your actions.
Exactly, and they're like Sherlock Holmes. They'll just come you exactly. They will understand it. So we have got to develop this aspect inside, so we can, I mean, design such activities inside the home, even if we go outside. So that is basically our genuine communication with our kids. I can just relate one very interesting scenario here. Like I have got a different kind of brought up. And I had one of my colleagues at my university, he had obviously a different kind of setup as well. And parenting is the most influential factor to develop these aspects as well. So he was just going to Hajj, and he was very much worried. I went to him and I said that, well, Raza, what's wrong with you? He said, look, my problem is that me and my wife, both of us, we are just going to go to Saudi Arabia for 1 month, but my kid is not willing to accept this thing. And it's been 1 week. I'm trying my level best to convince him. I said, for God's sake. I mean, what I had in those days, ignorant days, what I had in my mind that why shall we speak the truth? I mean, why doesn't he tell I that, well, I mean, I'm just going somewhere and I'll be back. And this kid is going to cry for, let's say, 24 hours. He's going to get worried and all that. And after that, he would get back to the same momentum. Riaz Saab got like, he just wore that very stern expression. He said, for God's sake, I'm not going to lie to my kid. Even if I have got to spend 2 more weeks to convince my kid, I'll do that. And from that day, that incident basically completely changed my mind as well, that this is how once we are going to. And after that, he went to this extent as well, that look, it's not that I'm just going to convince them that I'm going abroad. I have got to do something else as well. I'm just going to give them this kind of image right now from this young age, that look, you have got your grandfather, you have got your grandmother, and you've got like sibling as well. Now I'm away. It's your responsibility to take care of your grandfather, your grandmother, even we have got like servants as well, you've got your younger sister as well. So, I mean, I have found this model very intriguing, man. And from that day, I changed this concept.
That's absolutely true. Because I would agree with you and your friend as well, that we spend a lot of time sending our children to the best schools, giving them tuitions, and spending lots of money as well and resources. The personality building, it's so important.
Exactly.
Why aren't we concentrating on that? Because a very young child needs a lot of that development.
Well, we have got like in our society, now I can see, for example, when I always give this kind of activity inside MBS classes as well and BBS classes as well, that look, you grew up in a specific model where perhaps your grandfather was administering all these aspects, or perhaps your father was there.
Yeah.
They had a specific kind of model. Just observe that model. What did you learn from that model? And after that, if, for example, after 5 years, when you're going to have your own family, now what are the best aspect which you're just going to pick from that, and you're just going to apply them? And after that, what are certain aspects where you don't agree? Because now this is a new age, the requirements are different, we have got new challenges and all that. So what are the different aspects which you are just going to put it from your perspective? It's just to develop this awareness. So now when I just look at this specific aspect or this phenomena, I can see youngsters, young children, the parents are going to drop them, and there is always a pep talk early in the morning, which mothers are just going to give to their sons and daughters while they're just going to drop them to the school. So in this way, I see a very good change where now children, they are quite safe in certain regard, but it's not like everyone is understanding. We got a small chunk, people who have got awareness, and they are just going to really working on their personalities. And parenting factor is the most influential factor when it comes to personality development.
Absolutely. Okay, how does this book deal with confidence issues? Because I would say that, confidence is one of the main things that hinders a person from getting their message across, or maybe perceiving a message. Because if you have complexes yourself and you're feeling inadequate, or you feel like you have a low self-esteem, what another person is saying to you may be perceived in a completely mistaken way.
This is a very interesting area which you have just touched upon, self-esteem. This very question, it falls into the category of this self-esteem.
Yes.
You have rightly said, people who have got low or damaged self-esteem, they've got lots of issues and problem when it comes to communication. So there is a very interesting game. How do we develop this self-concept? It's like there is what we call self-esteem is very closely related to our self-concept. And how do we develop this self-concept? Actually, it's your self-concept, the way you are going to evaluate yourself. It determines your personality.
That's absolutely
And it's always there in your communication skill, interpersonal skills, or whatever you're going to do. It's always there. Now, how do we build it? There is a very interesting game. We call it social comparison. I call it a game. Okay. And this game goes on all the time. For example, right after the birth, when grandparents, they're just going to come around that kid, and all of them, they're just going to look at the kid and they would say, wow, oh, prince, oh, princess, oh, African, I'm sorry, not in the derogatory term, because of the color and all. Child has come to this world, he or she is not even aware of the surrounding, what's going on, and still people are there to tag them. This is one. And after that, 3 or 4 years, when children, they're just moving around, and we go to different families, we visit them, children are just playing. All elders, they are just spectators. Yeah. And they all are going to look like
and
this.
Commentators.
He's sharp, he's goof, he's a... Look, tagging is going on. This is social comparison. It's even among siblings as well.
Oh, definitely.
You are going to appreciate one, and you're just going to say that, well, you're not going to improve in that. So this social comparison, it goes on all the time, and it's really going to affect your personality one way or the other way.
And it goes on in all phases of life, not just home, and then you move on to school, and then you move on to...
Exactly. Obviously, third step is when they go to school, or then they're just going to have now problem is that if they've got relatively stable self-esteem, so chances are that even if they've got certain challenges, issues and problem, they're going to deal them in a very nice way. But if they do not have this very stable kind of self-esteem, it's going to really affect them. For example, if there's a young kid and is a bit bulky, and on first day the kid goes to the school, and after that there are some students who are highly confident, and they're very old as well, old in the grades. They just look at that kid and they would say that, well, look at you're bulky and all that, they're going to name them and all that, ridicule and all that. Now if that kid has got relatively stable self-esteem, Perhaps he's going to fight with them. He said, come on, don't do that. Now, if the kid is not having stable self-esteem, ultimately he's going to
be
suffer,
crushed.
exactly suffer. And with every passing day, this bullying
It's going to get worse.
to deteriorate his internal aspect.
And as you very rightly identified, bullying is just such a huge issue. And the effects of bullying on childhood shape the way for a person to come for the rest of their life, and it also affects their relationships. It reflects so many things that, you know, influential in their life. And that's why it's so important for parents to be on the lookout for if their child is being bullied, and then also take it up with the school authorities as well.
As already we've discussed that, first of all, you're just going to develop your relationship in such a way with your kids that they're going to trust upon their parents.
Exactly.
And they're just going to share each and every aspect with the parents, what happens inside the school. So if they're just going to share, they're just going to completely trust their parents. So this is a very good link where at least they're going to let their parents to peep into their social life.
Right.
And they can just look at these certain aspects which are really problematic. So in this specific scenario, the parents can come. They can just go for this remedial kind of work as well. But if children, perhaps the parents, whatever the problem they have, if they're not going to trust the parents, if they're not going to share it with them, this is really going to create a lot many issues. Then if they're not going to share it with the parents, where else they're going to go? I have got a very interesting scenario at my university. 4 years back, I was just working on one student of mine of BBA. I was just working to enhance his confidence level because he was too shy to stand before the class to present something. So one day, we were working with multiple methods to enhance his confidence. One day, desperately came to me and he said that, look, Sir Asif, you can't improve my confidence. And there is no way out. I said, for God's sake, I am a very hard taskmaster and I'm not going to surrender. He said, no, whatever you're saying, still, I would say you will not succeed. I said, okay, just tell me the reason. He said, look, I've got that girlish voice. When I go back to my own house, my father is the first one to ridicule and make fun of me. So your methods, they're not going to. So if that's a problem, then this kid will never be able to share whatever happens at campus or in social gathering. So this is really going to deteriorate the personality of that kid.
Absolutely true. It's a fascinating conversation. We're going to get back to the rest of, you know, what we're going to talk about in today's program. We're going for a break, but don't change the channel. Okay, welcome back to the program. Now, before we went to the break, you know, we were speaking to Mr. Asif Rasool about, you know, the book that we're discussing today, Interpersonal Communication, relating to others. And, you know, you were specifically, you know, explaining about the responsibility that parents have in the development of a child's personality.
There's a very interesting aspect of this phenomena, that it said that your children's intelligence or the IQ level, it's in parents' hands. Now this is something very interesting. Children are gifted with this one thing after the birth, and that is inquisitiveness in their nature. For example, if you take your children somewhere, so if they're like very old, so they're going to ask simple question, who is this, who is that? These are like very, very simple questions. Now parents who understand this phenomena, they're just going to properly satiate the children question and quest for this lot of learning. And obviously, in order to properly fulfill this thing, we have to have a lot of patience because there are too many questions. So it means, in a way, parents are actively involved to develop their children's IQ level. Parents who do not have awareness. So when children are around, they would say, okay, come on, go to the next room. Now we are sitting with the guest. Go to the next room, play with that, or play, or watch that thing. And in this way, they're not just going to make them active participant and learners. So this is a very, very important phenomenon, especially for mothers, because most of the time they are with the children, and they can really work in a wonderful way. And I've just read in Hum Sab about a writer. He said that, well, I really worked hard on my daughter, and I used to buy her books because I really wanted to invest this much time for that like wonderful future where she's just going to communicate in a highly intellectual way. And now after perhaps 6 or 7 years, I don't exactly remember, he said that, well, I'm enjoying it because the time which I really invested, now she is just coming up to my expectation.
Right, and a very important thing you mentioned right there, time
Exactly.
and investment.
Exactly.
So, you know, like I said, we spent a lot of energy and resources in getting and thinking for the best for our children. But actually what they really need, which is very, very important as well, is a specific allocation of time where the child knows that the child is the focus of that time, and we're giving them that quality sort of one-to-one communication.
This is a very important point which parents need to understand, because if they're just coming and if they're just parents, they've got like, now we got lots of pressure, jobs, our social responsibilities and so on. So due to all these factors, they have got less time. And even if they just get a few moments which they're going to spend with the kids, they've got their mobiles, they've got social media and all that. So it means they're sitting with the kids, but they're not spending quality time with the kids.
That's true.
And
That's
so
true.
I would suggest that parents must quit all these, and that should be a very, very meaningful talk with the kids.
Where the child knows
Exactly.
that this is their time and it's being mindfully done, and it's for the child to being, you know, for a person to give them their all out and full attention.
Exactly.
Because I think that's really important. Okay. Verbal and non-verbal perception as well, and communication. Let's talk about that. That's also a fascinating field.
Dr. Stephen Beebe has quoted a lot. He has just gone through different researches as well. This is a wonderful division. If we talk about total communication, let's say if it is 100%, so 70% is, to my surprise, non-verbal communication portion, and 30% is just verbal portion.
That's an amazing ratio.
That makes the whole communication.
A person wouldn't think it would.
Normally,
you
we
wouldn't
don't
think it's
exactly.
like that.
We don't think about it.
I would have thought it would be the 30 non-verbal and the 70 verbal. So
no,
that's
look
a huge.
How it's going to contribute. For example, when it comes to verbal language, we can always play. The way we see people around us, they're always playing, twisting, turning words and all that. They're going to play with the language. But non-verbal aspect of communication has got a wonderful thing. Non-verbal communication is spontaneous. You can't control it.
And that's why it's more effective.
Exactly. The way you're just going to learn about the person or the feelings through non-verbal communication, you can, you're definitely going to get certain clues from verbal communication.
Okay, that's another thing. You know, when you say you have vibes, you know, when you meet somebody new and you're talking about them with somebody else and you say, oh, I don't know, I just had these negative vibes from them. So that's the
Exactly.
non-verbal communication coming into play, isn't it?
Exactly. I watched this one program on BBC. It said that, well, all of us, we are just emitting vibes. And then similarly, all other people as well. So if they're just going to match positively, we are going to like people. Sometimes this happens in a very, very strange way, that you go outside, you look at someone, and suddenly you don't feel like going to that person. You never talk to that person. You don't know about that person, but just looking at that person. So, I mean, after just observing a little bit, I came to know that their research, that was wonderful research.
Right.
But as an interpersonal communicator, we have got to eliminate that aspect, because we have got to properly develop our understanding, and then we have got to go for forgiveness, we've got to go for empathy as well and all that.
Okay. So Stephen Beebe, the author of this book, and he has written many other publications, many other books as well, he's, you know, what is the message that he's giving across? And what is his, you know, what are those golden rules that a person should abide by?
Yes, exactly. That's, he has basically made an enormous effort to develop understanding among human beings. It doesn't matter which country or which geographical area they belong to. And second is to eliminate the misunderstanding. This is the main message.
Okay.
In this paradigm, how you're just going to, you're just going to get multiple aspects from this book of Dr. Bibi, and then you can properly apply them when you're going to communicate with the people. So even I always say one thing, that when it comes to your bosses, if your bosses are very strict, if they shout, if they are like angry and all that, I really enjoy such bosses. Because once you understand interpersonal communication skill, in your heart of hearts, actually you sympathize with them. That look, they are just going through a very traumatic period because of their backgrounds, perhaps like something happened in their professional life, personal life. So they've got all these miseries, problem, issues, tension locked up in their heads. And now they're communicating outside. So in a way, you're just going to do a wonderful job, like if you are going to exactly understand this interpersonal aspect as well. You can really help people out as well. I have seen so many people having like those who remain in tension, problem. So ultimately, it's going to affect your health. And Dr. B obviously addresses this issue when he talks about the importance of interpersonal communication skills. He said that if you are very good at interpersonal communication skills, it's also going to improve your emotional health.
That is really, really important. The IQ and the EQ.
Exactly.
When they're in harmony with each other,
yes.
that really puts a person in a win-win situation.
So that's why I call it not learning rules, rather refining yourself.
Refining yourself. That's a fantastic sort of an approach to this. Really, really interesting. Okay, now let's talk about, empowering oneself, because these are all those things that we're actually doing.
Exactly.
We can find that, maybe you're really, really well equipped for a certain job, for a certain task, for a certain situation. Then all of a sudden things happen and you think to yourself, why did I react in that certain way? I could have reacted in a much better way and not let a situation or a relationship deteriorate. What are those skills?
Dr. Bibi has just given a very specific chapter on this, and where he discusses how to improve interpersonal communication skills. So he talks about a body of research. It is biological approach. According to this body of research, we usually inherit certain traits from our parents. It means if there is something wrong with my parents, naturally I'm going to have it. And there are no rooms for improvement. So just looking at the different aspect, we're just going to stop it there, because this is not like logical in this regard. There are always room for improvement, and Dr. Bibi discusses certain aspects. Number one is, he says, become knowledgeable. Because the way this communication, it has got certain principles, it has got certain formulas, it has got certain tips. So once we are familiar with them, so we are just going to properly practice them. So this is like number one is so usually people, even if they're from different profession, I would recommend this book to them, whatever their profession is, whether they're doctors, engineers, scientists, teachers, even housewives. I will just recommend for everyone, because this really helps you a lot. This is a knowledge. We just get knowledge for our own professional field. For example, let's say my field, I will just go for my MPhil, PhD, and I'll just read kind of relevant literature on that. But I'm just learning the way I've got to communicate this. So this is a kind of learning. When you're just going to read this, Dr. Bibi's book, you are really going to help yourself in this regard. So you're going to learn certain techniques, formulas. Number one is knowledge. Now, second thing is, do we think that knowledge is enough? For example, you've got there is something wrong with your mobile. You just bought this mobile and perhaps it's malfunctioning, it's not working properly. A guy comes to you and he said that, well, I never touched even this mobile, but last night I went through a book about this mobile and I'm excellent at it. Will you allow that person to operate upon this, you will never allow it, because that person does not have any kind of experience.
Right.
So having knowledge is one thing, and second is translating that knowledge into action. That is second thing, and that is quite challenging one. For example, if we teach, let's say, effective presentation skills to our MBAs and BBA students, or students are every field. Our teacher is same, material is same, environment is same, but why does this happen that after some time we see a few students that are just going to enhance, or they're going to have a very good grip on this aspect very quickly, whereas majority of the students, they are there, they don't improve. It means these are the people that are going to take the risk to translate that knowledge properly into. So they can, first one is become knowledgeable, second is become skilled. And skill, in order to learn a new skill or new area, it's not that we are just going to have a full grip in a jiffy. No way. I mean, we have to properly divide it into sub-skill. For example, the best formula could be hear it, see it, do it, or practice it. So this is how the second. Third one is become flexible. That's the most important aspect.
And that also sort of coincides with being tolerant as well, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's a very important part.
Exactly, as in marketing we say that one size does not fit all. And all effective interpersonal communicators, they really understand this phenomena. That we have got different situation, different scenario, different people, and they all have got different backgrounds. So in order to succeed successfully in the different scenarios, we call it adaptability. We have to be adaptable in different scenarios. So this flexibility, it tells us that, well, now we can use that approach, but this is not effective to use the same approach somewhere.
And that exactly is what, you know, helps you to be a more successful individual as well. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, and this is a fascinating subject, a great book, you know, something that would really, really benefit, as you said, majority of people, everybody in fact, regardless of who you are and what age group you're in or whether you work or not. Before we go, we'd like you to give a message to the viewers.
I'll just recommend this book to all parents, first of all, because this is really going to enhance their understanding about this phenomena. And through this, they're really going to contribute, they're going to communicate with the children in a very meaningful way. And this meaningful communication is really going to, it matters a lot in their personality. And second, people who are just students who are studying at master level, they should also go through it. Then we got like all professionals. They should also go through this book, because through this book they're just going to learn a lot about interpersonal communication skills as well. And once they are just going to have this knowledge, after that they're going to experiment with that knowledge. And that's a kind of journey. I mean, having like learning something separately, and after that you're just going to apply, and then you're just going to have that wonderful, which Dr. Beebe quotes, and I love this, discussing this aspect, that it's like kind of opera singers. Well, like there are two singers, they're just, two dancers, opera dancers, when they are together and they are involved in a very complicated kind of dance. Now, how they're just going to make adjustment with each other. Similarly, learning all these principles of communication, when we are in the market, in our professional or personal life, we can also go for these certain. And ultimately, this is going to bring peace, harmony, love, happiness.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Asif Rasool, for being with us here today on the program, The Classics Show.
Thank you.
Okay, so we had a fascinating episode today, and I'm sure everybody is going to really, you know, you're going to learn and you're going to gain a lot of knowledge from what we discussed today. So do take that home and do understand that there's just so much more to what meets the eye, and, you know, our perception also shapes a lot of how we act in life. So until next week, stay happy. Bye-bye.